We are now going to draft a jean sloper which has a contoured fit and a narrow leg. I've made a copy of my pant front. I've labeled the center front at the waist A, the waist at the side B, the side at the base C, the side at the inseam D, the midpoint G, where the grain line is, the crotch point E, and this was the original rectangle where we extended out our front crotch extension. This is point F. We will decrease the front crotch extension 1/4 of an inch from E to H. This will give the crotch area a much tighter fit, as one expects with a jean. Where the front crotch level intersects the side seam, we have point I. We will now connect our new crotch point to our existing crotch line. We will reduce the base by 1/2 inch at the inseam and at the side seam. At the inseam, we have point K, and at the side seam, we have point J. On the side seam, we will travel down 2 inches from point I and establish point L. We will now reduce the knee by 1/2 inch at the inseam and 1/2 inch at the side seam. At the inseam, we have point M, and at the side seam, we have point N. To review, we decreased the front crotch extension 1/4 of an inch from E to H, and we redrew our front crotch curve. We narrowed the base by 1 inch total, 1/2 inch at the inseam to point K, 1/2 inch at the side seam to point J. We established point L along the side seam 2 inches below point I. We decreased the knee by a total of 1 inch, 1/2 inch at the inseam to point M, 1/2 inch at the side seam to point N. We will now connect points J, N, and L for our new side seam. J to N is pretty simple. Then we need to angle over to point L. And I'm going to clean this up a little bit, just have a smoother transition. Here's our new side seam, J, N, L. We will now connect H, M, and K for our inseam. M to K is pretty easy, very straight line. H to M is more of a curve. This is our jean front sloper. Moving on to the back, make a copy of your sloper back. Where the waistline meets the crotch curve is point O, and where the waistline meets the side seam is point P. The crotch point is point S. This is the original rectangle where we extended for the back crotch extension. This is point T. At the base, where the side seam meets the base is Q, where the inseam meets the base is R, and the midpoint, where the grain line is point U. We'll begin with the back crotch extension. We're going to decrease that to achieve that tighter, more contoured jean fit. This is the original point where we came out for the original back crotch extension for the sloper, the basic pant, we're going to go back to T and travel over to point V, 1/4 of the back low hip calculation plus 1/2 inch. So for this particular draft, the back low hip calculation was 9 1/4. So 1/4 of that would be 2 3/8, plus 1/2 would be 2 7/8. At point T, we're going to travel over 2 7/8 to point V, where our crotch level line meets the side seam is point W. We will draw our new back crotch curve. For those of you who want to know where to rejoin the original crotch curve, just join at a place that would give you a graceful curve. We're going to reduce the base by 1 inch, the same as we did the front. So we're coming in 1/2 inch at the side seam and 1/2 inch at the inseam. We have point X at the inseam and point Y at the side seam. From point W on the side seam, we will travel down 2 inches and establish point Z. We will now reduce the knee by 1/2 inch at the side seam and 1/2 inch at the inseam. We have lowercase a at the inseam and lowercase b at the side seam. To review, we began at point T and traveled 1/4 of the back low hip calculation plus 1/2 inch. In this case, the total was 2 7/8. We rejoined our original crotch curve. We narrowed the base by 1/2 inch at the inseam to point X, 1/2 inch at the side seam to point Y. We narrowed the knee by 1/2 inch at the inseam to lowercase a, 1/2 inch at the side seam to lowercase b. Beginning at the crotch level on the side seam at point W, we traveled down 2 inches and established point Z. We will now draw the side seam from Z to B to Y. B to Y is pretty easy. Now we'll go Z to B. And I'll just clean this up just a little bit. Just smooth that out so we don't have a connect the dots looking situation. For the inseam, we will connect V, A, X. And again, I'm going to do this in 2 passes. Our jean side seam is X, B, Y. Our jean inseam is V, A, X. Before we go over these lines in a colored pencil, a brighter color, we need to true the crotch point and we need to check the length of the inseams. First, I'll measure the front inseam. The front inseam is 27 5/8. The back inseam is 27 1/4. So we have a 3/8 inch difference, and that's absolutely fine. The last bit of truing is to make sure that we have a very flat transition at the crotch point. So an easy way to do that is to make a drawing of the front crotch. Right here, I've traced our new front crotch curve, and I'm going to lay it right next to the back crotch curve. And I can see here that this is not a smooth transition at all. So I'm going to get my ruler and clean that up. Where these two seams intersect, we want a nice, flat, smooth transition. This is a much smoother transition. So I'm going to raise the crotch point of both the front and the back and just redraw this crotch curve ever so slightly. For the front, I placed a piece of cardboard under the pattern, and I'm just going to now follow the line that I made. So here is my new trued front crotch curve, right here and right here. I will now do the same thing for the back. Here's our new front crotch curve, trued, and the back. Now we will have a very smooth, comfortable transition in the crotch area. I will now go over these lines with a colored pencil and we'll have a look. Our jean sloper has been outlined in green. We can see a snugger crotch and the more fitted leg. And the narrower base. Now it's time to make a test garment.